Here's what happened, guys. Recently, I posted on X, your business reputation is not worth damaging your soul. When someone chooses to do what is right over what is easy and convenient, hold on to them. Because they're also someone who owns up to their mistakes, their business mistakes, and also personal mistakes. And this movement is about bringing together small business owners who choose to do what is right over what is easy and convenient. And that's hard. It is not fun. It can be very embarrassing at times. But in the end, you are preserving your soul. And recently I read the Bible all the way through, and I realized just how important that is, going back to my faith of Christianity, how important it is to remind ourselves that our soul is eternal. And it's not just, we just don't have this time on earth and that's it. So now, for moving forward and making America's future a small business renaissance, we have to decide as small business owners, what is the country that we want to build a future for? What does it represent? What are we preserving that is great about this country? And then what do we realize in this moment with massive change that is unfolding? We've talked about that before. We're in a fourth turning. How do we want to channel that change into a better future that helps Americans? So welcome back to the show. Happy Thursday. Today, I do want to talk about, in this ownership series, of owning our business mistakes. For me, since starting my first business over 11, now it's over 11 years ago, back in 2014, started my first business as a DJ. I've made plenty of mistakes along the way. One of which was when I organized my first conference, social media conference called SmackCon. I had lied about how many people were coming to the event in order to build hype because I was scared that not a lot of people were going to show up, and then I was going to feel very embarrassed, and my business reputation was going to hurt. It was going to be damaged. And that lie sat with me for a long time. It had a massive impact in now how I do business, and it was a terrible mistake that I owned up to for the people that were closest to me, and then having to own up to it publicly and making sure that that does not happen again. But these mistakes, they will come in different ways, different forms, and the actions that we take on the other side of those mistakes determines how we're going to move forward in as small business owners, and what is the precedence that we're setting for ourselves, the standard that we're trying to set for ourselves. And with this country, I believe that we need to build a foundation for this country that's built on integrity and to preserve what is beautiful, good, and true about this country. And with that, there's a lot of mess that we have to clean up in order to make that happen. There has been a lot of focus on the short term for the few at the damage of the many. And when we look at this Epstein class of satanic elites and pedophiles that run the rest of us, going back to this worldview that I have of the powerful and the rest of us, it's not right or left. It's not all these ways that they divide us as Americans, but it's the powerful versus the powerful versus the rest of us. And so when we can accept that this is a reality that we're living in right now, well, we have to decide how we're going to move forward into the future. How are we going to make America's future a small business renaissance? And that is bringing small business into focus, making small business the priority, and making sure we have a moral value system that we are reminded of, that are the guardrails for the system that we benefit from, a capitalistic system here in the U.S. And it's been leaning more and more towards socialism and government involvement. And when we think of socialism, and I think about it as the appetizer going into communism, which is the main meal. But where the roads lead to is the abolish of private property, and that is your ability to own your small business. And when it comes back to one of the reasons you could have started a small business was for freedom. And that is something we must continue to preserve in this country. But we have to be aware of what are the national conversations that are happening. That is really important, because I know it can be easy to ignore what is going on, if that's culturally, to politics, theology. But with all of those and the economy, they're interconnected. And it's really important that we are reminded of that as we move forward into the future. And so we can't no longer stay in our own small world. We have to be aware of what is going on the national level. It's important in this moment that we're experiencing in history where massive change is happening. And there is a lot of mess to clean up, because if not, we can see the path that we're headed towards. And that is towards terrible destruction, division among us, and potentially the end, as we know it, of the country that we live in. And that is something we have to push back on, because this is the greatest country in the history of the world. I don't just say that. I go back to the amount of generosity, just going out and talking to other Americans, and generosity that's giving to nonprofits, to supporting others, to our immigration policies, even though that is such a controversy right now, to the ability to start from minimal resources and be able to build a better life for yourself and improve your quality of life, to be able to have the American dream. But over the decades, this system has been abused. It has been taken advantage of by the few. And that has eroded this system that we've created. It's become very crony. Going back to crony capitalism, it is a system that's been really taken advantage of, and it's caused younger generations to then move towards other potential methods of how we could move forward economically. Going back to socialism, how that is becoming more popular in our country, a terrible, terrible system. And we got to continue to be aware of this and push back on it, because capitalism is not greed. Capitalism is an economic system that has lifted billions of people out of poverty around the world in the last 100 years. For the majority of history, we've been poor when we think of the human history. And so with the free markets, and then the ability for us to go back to the supply and demand, and opportunities to build wealth, this is such a beautiful system. But it can, like any system, become corrupted and be abused. And so what I want to share with you is a speech from President JFK that talks about this. And this goes back to the Soviet Union, Stalin, and communism that was happening there. Because over the last 100 years, socialism, communism, has killed tens of millions of people. We can look to the famines, to the gulags, Soviet Union, Russia. So I want to share this with you. It's really important to hold on to this, because sometimes we can lose sight of just what we have here is on an individual level for individual rights, like our freedom of speech. It's important to be able to have that space to disagree, and actually to get into the habit of it being okay for us to disagree and still be able to live in the same society. And that's something that we got to continue to move forward into the future. So let me share this with you. Share my screen. So here's the section I want to read to you. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrilla by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscribed vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. And its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. It conducts the Cold War. In short, with a wartime discipline, no democracy would ever hope or wish to match. Mistakes are buried. That is something, as a small business owner, it's important for you to own your mistakes. That is how trust can get built, because we all make mistakes. And when that happens, yes, your business reputation may get hit in the short term, but in the long term, it will grow for that business reputation. It will elevate. It will go to a new standard. And people will trust you more. And that is the country I want to live in, a country where we can trust each other more. Where it used to be you could have a handshake deal and you could trust and honor or know that the person's going to honor their word. Now, how is it with business deals, lengthy contracts? This fear that you're going to be deceived, or the fear that someone's not going to follow through on what they say they're going to do. And it's, which country do you want to build a future for? I want to build a future for one country where I don't have to lock my doors. That I can, I think about it for us, we can walk around our greatest cities in America without fear at night. That's the country I want to build a future for. And what it takes is us understanding what is our moral value system. How can we move forward and make that happen? And it comes back to telling the truth, being honest, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's shocking, because it will give peace. Peace in your life, peace in others' lives. It may not be peaceful at the time, but in the long term, it can bring peace of mind, of knowing what is going on so that we can move forward. And it's important to accept that there is evil that is in our world. And within our country, I love this country, but I know that there's evil. And we got to continue to root it out, bring light to it, because the light can dissolve it away. And we need also accountability. And I've talked about it before with our government and how the government, we have to remind ourselves, the government is there to serve us, the American people. And as small business owners, I believe we are America's future leaders. America's future leaders are small business owners. And so it's for you to lead by example in that way, to set the tone, to raise the standard. That could be for your specific family as a provider. It could be for your community, your team, and then our society. And the more of us that do that, the more of us that are brave in stepping forward, even into the unknown, that can be very scary at times. But we decide each day to show up a little bit better, and at times a lot better. That's what's going to continue to move us forward towards that future of America's future is a small business renaissance, making it a small business renaissance. But it's going to take a lot of us coming together. So what I want to share, because yesterday I talked about it for MK Ultra, a program, CIA program, the mind control program. Also talked about Operations Northwood, a proposed false flag operation. I want to share another one with you to realize just what happens out there. And this is it's got its own Wikipedia page. So this is something that is out there. So let me share my screen here so you can see. But it's important to understand the reality that we're living in. So this right here, this was Operation Paperclip. And what it was a secret U.S. intelligence program in which more than 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were taken from former Nazi Germany to the U.S. for government employment after the end of World War II in Europe. And several were confirmed to be former members of the Nazi Party, including SS or the SA. That happened. And this Operation Paperclip was a precursor to then getting into formation of CIA, and then the MK Ultra program. You can go down that path, that rabbit hole, and learn more about it. But what I want to highlight here is that we have to understand the realities out there. And we got to understand, like, who runs this country? Who does? There's been talks of deep state. If you're asked the question, do you believe your politicians have your best interest as the American people? The answer is no. And that for the few exceptions that are out there, but for the majority, it's a no. And so we know this information, but it's like, well, what can we do? Well, as small business owners, usually the messaging we get is we just got to adapt. We just got to deal with it, move on, focus on what you can. There's a lot of things outside of your control. Don't focus on that. And I believe that's been a lie, a psychological operation that has been put on us, because small business owners are builders. You are building the future. And you have to be reminded of that. We all have to be reminded of that we get to shape that future. We don't just have to take whatever comes our way and adapt to it. We can actually be able to dictate where that path is that we're going to go down for the or that we're going to head into the future for our country. And we cannot forget that. And that's so important with this ownership series to get across that there's been a lot of different developments that have been less than 100 years old in our country. I go back as some examples. 1960s, there was a lot that was happening then. But, that was the MK Ultra program, Operation Northwoods, the first street camera system was installed. We talked about that before on the show in Olin, New York. And then the foundations of the internet were starting to get built. And then you had the President JFK's assassination. You had the supposed moon landing. I've talked about that before on the show. Whole nother conversation. We're not getting into that right now. But we got to take the time to realize that we can change where we're headed into the future. And I think about what we want, with this movement. It's like, we do want to have less technology, time to spend with those that we care about. I take one day a week of doing the best I can to not get on social media or get on my phone as best I can. Something I continue to work on as a habit. But that could be one. That's one. Another one is more outside time. Make sure we're getting outside, experiencing nature around us, making sure that we're able to go to parks if we're in the city, or that we can go out into the woods and be able to experience that. Clean food, air, and water. Basic rights, fundamental rights. Happier relationships, happier marriages. And then values. Conservative values that go back to what built this amazing country. Values of discipline, of putting in the hard work. Somehow discipline has become vilified, which is crazy to me. It's like that's required. And you know what, as a small business owner, being a small business owner it's not for the weak. It is for the strong. And with that too, it's understanding that we're going to have to work now, pay after. That's what built the West. And we got to continue to work on that moving forward and lead by example in that way. And we got to understand what are the incentives and making sure that we're adjusting those incentives so that we're doing what is right over what is easy and convenient. But it's going to take all of us to come together to make that happen, to unite, because a house divided cannot stand. If you're a business owner that also wants to connect with other small business owners in person who love this country, because I love this country and I do hope you love this country too, does not mean it's perfect. We're dealing with a lot of mess right now. U.S. national debt is over $38 trillion. We've just gone to war with Iran. The Gen Z is the most indebted generation for their age group in the history of the U.S. And so there's a lot of mess, a lot of chaos that is out there. But if you want to continue to connect with other small business owners who care about this country, who love this country and want to build the future, not just for a business that lasts, but also for a country that lasts, they can join us in Charleston, South Carolina on January 14th and 15th, 2027. And you can register here at afuturefest.com. I'm excited to be able to meet you at this event. There's going to be over 300. The goal is to have over 300 small business owners from across country and different industries and different parts of the country. Already excited for the different countries or different states that are represented at this event already, and I'm excited to hopefully be able to meet you there. But we got to continue to remind ourselves that this is gonna be it's not gonna happen overnight. It is gonna take time, but also we are in a moment in history where massive change is happening, and so we can take that massive change and channel it into the future, and to continue to move forward to make America's future a small business renaissance. So I love you guys. Appreciate your support with this movement, and I will see you guys tomorrow.